All right. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are on the planet right now. Welcome to this Friday's Harmonize2Energize. My name is Terry Matthews. It's been my pleasure and privilege to share the art of JIN SHIN JYUTSU for the past 4.5 years with Harmonize2Energize, initially live and now mainly online, and more recently modalities with overlapping connections. Hello, Becca. So for those of you that may be new, or at least if you're not new live, new on the replay, JIN SHIN JYUTSU, which is what I'm going to focus on mainly today, is an art of harmonizing energy, life force, prana, universal light, whichever culture you were brought up in. This understanding that light energy moves through pathways in our body and is regulated by what in JIN SHIN JYUTSU we call safety energy locks, and what acupuncturists call points. And this energy feeds our cells and therefore our organs. And due to lifestyle, our thoughts, words, and deeds, we can disharmonize the flow of that energy. But if we place our hands, palms of our hands, on these safety energy locks, or our fingers, or our thumbs, or the back of our hands, we can help regulate the flow so that it's more harmonious. And by the way, the safety energy locks are the size of your individual hand, diameter of your palm, not mine. And it was brought to the West by Mary Eno Burmeister in the 1970s. She had studied with Master Jiro Murai in Japan, and when she married an American, Gil Burmeister, she came back to America. She was originally from Seattle, in America, but she came back with Gil, and I gather they settled down in Burbank, California. And it wasn't until the 70s, she came back, I think, in maybe middle 50s, something like that. But it wasn't until the 70s that she actually began teaching JIN SHIN JYUTSU, and even that was apparently quite by accident. She'd spent several years, maybe 12 years, studying still with Master Jiro Murai by correspondence. Her and another disciple, if you like, Haruki Kato, kept in contact because he was also continuing, or he was continuing to study with Jiro Murai live there in Japan. And so he would feed back to Mary any teachings that he had heard, and they used to, I believe, exchange information. So quite by accident, she began teaching JIN SHIN JYUTSU because she worked on the client of a, I believe, a chiropractor who was so impressed with her work and who became harmonized, that word got round that Mary Burmeister might have not been these words, had magic hands. That's my interpretation. But anyway, she began bringing out this wisdom. And I know that Pat Mehta, who was her long-time, if you like, close apprentice, I know some people don't like that word, but having worked alongside Pat, I know she was with Mary for 30 years and or more, and spent a lot of time with Mary, as indeed several of the earliest teachers of JIN SHIN JYUTSU, which were Muriel Carlton, Philomena Dooley, Wayne Hackett, and so forth. So when we look at the understanding or the meaning of the art of JIN SHIN JYUTSU, I think we looked at that understanding from the point of view of the kanji a few weeks back. And we understand it to mean the art of the creator through a compassionate or knowing and aware man, which is the strict Japanese interpretation. And I prefer to say human, because being an art of compassion, it connects us with our heart. And who, certainly in some traditions, I believe, mystical Islam, who is the heart. And if you ever watch whirling dervishes or Sufis when they do what they call zikr, which is remembrance, they remember their connection with the universe or divine force or generator, operator, destroyer of the universe, which is an explanation of the word God. They do that by bowing into their heart center. And one of the things Mary, and I think a lot of people from Eastern traditions do, on greeting you, is there is a bow. And it's doing two things. It's connecting us, them, with our heart, and also it's opening up what we call safety energy lock 4 at the back of the head, because as we bow, we stretch the muscles to the side of the neck, the sternocleidomastoid, which cross over at the 4s, and that allows more light to enter us. So the physiology of some of the movements that people do in different cultures makes perfect sense when you relate it to arts like JIN SHIN JYUTSU. And these safety energy locks all have different meanings, and they're all intended to help us harmonize. So when I came up with this idea of as above, so below, it's not new. Can you mute yourself? It's nothing new. It's part of the Eastern way of looking at the way energy circulates, spirals down the front and up the back, and how at certain frequencies and vibrations of energy, something may happen which will have a corresponding effect somewhere else. And the most obvious thing that you can think of, and a friend of mine sent me some information on that this week, is that in astrological terms, astrologers can interpret what's happening on the Earth plane, on this planet, with configurations of what is happening in the cosmos, how different planets interrelate and connect with one another. And some of that information is absolutely spot on, and some of it I sometimes wonder. But I think in the main, because it's based mainly on mathematical configurations, there can be some error, plus or minus this, that, and the other. And of course, we all have free will. I don't know the extent to which we have free will, but I do know that collectively, if we chose to connect to the harmonious energies in the universe, the potential to change anything that's unpeaceful, not peaceful or disharmonious is there. And we have the discussions, which I think I've mentioned in the past, about the 100th monkey or the Maharishi effect, where I think even in the Bible, they talk about where one or more are gathered in the name, there is a heightened energy amongst them. And that is talking about how the energy is squared, multiplied, when all of us gather together. What it doesn't always talk about is how we gather together. Do we gather together with harmonious thoughts, or do we gather together with judgments, fears, the attitudes, which is what we talk about in Jin Shin Jyutsu, harmonizing the attitudes. And Mary Burmeister always said that, you know, if you couldn't help a person with the bedrock of Jin Shin Jyutsu, with the number flows or the organ function flows, the issue, if you were finding nothing seemed to be flowing or moving, was the attitude level. So it's really important, I feel, that we look at what we are feeling. And these days, possibly more than ever before, and maybe it's a good practice now, once or twice a day, to connect to your heart, because the heart is that center of compassion. We talked about Jin Shin Jyutsu being that art of compassion or heart of compassion. Connecting at that level and asking ourselves, what exactly are we feeling or thinking right now? So if you have a pen or pencil handy, before I go and show some slides and configurations and we do some practices to harmonize what we're thinking, if you can jot down, or if you don't have a pen or pencil, just hold it in your consciousness. What exactly are you, me, we thinking right now? And normally it's the first thing that comes up in your consciousness, which is exactly how you are right now. And I'm going to suggest that after we've done the practices, you can review if what you're feeling and thinking has transformed to something else. I'm not going to say it's necessarily going to have transformed to something so much more harmonious, but that would be ideal. However, as I've often said when we talk about practicing Jin Shin Jyutsu with the 36 breaths, which Mary Burmeister talked about, this idea of exhaling and inhaling in sets of 9 breaths, adding up to 4 times 9 is 36. Mary gave that configuration based on an understanding of energy moving from subtler dimensions to more gross or material dimensions. Sometimes 36 is not enough. There is blockages that take a little longer to transform. And don't feel bad about it. I mean, Mary had a saying which I like: it is what it is, and as it is, it is. Because that's it. You know, and I think sometimes our mind gets stuck in, well, shouldn't this have happened by now? I would suggest that's the mind. So don't mind when you're practicing Jin Shin Jyutsu. Rather exhale, drop your shoulders and smile, and allow the light that comes in at safety energy lock 4, between the occiput here, the window that lets in more light, allow it to come in as unobstructed as it possibly can be, because it's coming into the head. And then certainly in Mary's further teachings from the Koji Ki, she actually talked about, and maybe this is mainly from the Japanese understanding, that heaven's the head, and earth is actually the umbilicus. All I know from my own study and research of this is that light enters the human system in 2 places. It does enter in at the back here on safety engine lock 4, and it does also enter at the umbilicus area, or around about 15, safety engine lock 15. And we talk about then, can you mute yourself, please, to safety energy lock number 7. Victory, perfect life, power. They all have these meanings to guide us. To guide us in bringing harmony. So if you have written down what you've right now been feeling or thinking, I will continue by showing the slides. If you haven't, just, it's okay. Don't be right or wrong about it. Just be happy with whatever is. All right. So those of you that have studied Jin Shin Jyutsu may have seen this understanding of how, as the energy moves down through the body and actually up, you can segment it into 3 different areas. There's a relationship at the bust line, the waistline, and the hip line. And in this teaching, the bust line can represent the heavenly level, spirit, mental, emotional, physio, philosophy, awareness of myself, our thoughts, the roots from which we understand everything else grows. And then the waistline, the mind, the humanity, the human being human, human stuff. And that is echoed in the body as the waistline, physiopsychology, understanding of myself, digestion, or trunk, and words. And then finally the hip line, the earth level, physiology, technique for myself, harvest or deeds. That's that left side slide. Then you look at the right side where it's subdivided into the safety energy locks that can help open those 3 sections of the energy field. 13, 14, and 15 as we go down the front of the body, and as we go up, 2, 9, and 10. And of course, they all have different meanings. And, you know, there is this teaching within Jin Shin Jyutsu is of cause and effect. So sometimes if there's something going on in the hip line area below the waist, the actual cause is above the waist, which would be the bust line area, 13 or 10, and vice versa. If there's something going on in the bust line, the cause would be below the waist in the hip line. So I hope that's reasonably clear. There's a replay. So if you haven't quite got that because you're new to those concepts, no worries. It all makes a little more sense as you... Yeah. Mickey, are you talking about the blue slide or the right?
The one that's got the human figure, and I don't see any.
Yeah, the one with the human figure has got the safety energy locks on it. Did you need to see that again?
Well, I didn't see a list. You said that they were on there.
I just, if you look at that, you'll see it's just, there's a list on the left, and then on the right, you'll just see, it's not so clear, but you'll see 13, 14, and 15 down the front. You follow my cursor?
Oh, it's my eyesight. Sorry. Thank you.
That's all right. You know, yeah. Sometimes I hear people get great results with eyes holding the 4s and the 21s, and that's the opposite. Sometimes they get amazing clarity. So anyway, yeah. Thanks, Mickey. So those safety energy locks give us some clues. And as I said before, they give us clues about how the energy might move through those segments. And also, I feel, how we might adjust our thinking, our thoughts or feelings mental, emotional, that's the bus line. If they are a little disharmonious, and there's no shame and there's no blame involved in that, because every day in every way, sensory energy from all over the universe is hitting us. And according to how well we can balance out what we receive, we may respond in a less harmonious way than we could. I don't know if anyone has ever heard this idea, but every thought we have apparently ricochets throughout the universe, throughout the galaxy. I was listening to a webinar recently where that idea was put to everybody, and it kind of stopped me in my tracks. And the teacher said, can you imagine if you have a lot of disharmonious or negative thoughts, you continue with that, sending them out, and they go throughout the universe? How big is that? And, you know, if a lot of people, that 100th monkey or more, the Maharishi effect, are all thinking that way, what is it doing to the universal energy? And how is it affecting how we receive the universal energy? So as above, so below. But let's just say as above, so below is ultimately oneness, which in JIN SHIN JYUTSU is represented in the body by the one spine. There really isn't, and those of you that have studied or practiced any kind of meditation may have reached a point where you almost have no thinking. You don't have to raise your hand, but if you've had that, then you'll know where I'm coming from. And at that level, there's no division. There's no as above, there's no so below. However, at that level, it's almost impossible, unless you really force it, to have a disharmonious thought. Because you don't feel bad, you feel good. You feel as though you're in harmony. It's peaceful. It may even be joyful. You may get lots of wisdom all of a sudden. So the qualities that the heart or the soul has is what connects you at that level. When we are in that space, bus line receiving that energy from the fore and from the umbilicus coming up to the heart, there's this meeting at that level. It's almost like a cross. We knock out the ego for a bit. The ego isn't bad. However, it's the mind in action. It's kind of saying that what I'm thinking is more important than the big picture. And all of a sudden, the big picture becomes subservient to the small self, the little digression up and down, left and right, right and wrong, all that stuff. It's human stuff. And hey, I'm not perfect. I have human stuff. I have judgments. However, I think the more we practice not having judgments and just accepting, as Mary Burmeister said, it is as it is, and you know, it is what it is, and as it is, doesn't mean that we don't bring that energy from the heart through to the waistline 14 and discern about it, and then think, is this sustaining or not? And then bring it to the 15, the hip line, and say, does this bring me joy and happiness? No, it doesn't mean that. It's not a naive, I can't do anything. Not at all. As we connect to that oneness expression at the bus line, at the heart, sixth depth, by the way, which is the main central, harmonizes the bus line, fifth and second. So when we come from there, we're more able to get a glimpse maybe see the whole bigger picture. And then we feel, I would say, a lot better about ourselves and the universe. And all those configurations that tell us that things aren't that great somehow transform. They dissolve into peace. So if we want peace on earth, let's look at how peaceful we are in heaven. And then let's bring heaven to earth. Now, I've taught some practices before using the 36 breaths, where we segment 9 exhalation inhalations times 4. Today, I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to segment into 12. And with this idea of clearing the pathway in order for us to embrace our bus line purity, if you like, clarity, a little bit more. We're going to do 12 exhalation inhalations at the hip line. This is the escape route idea. Then at the waistline, which is the rib cage area, and then at the bust line. So we're going to go below to effect as above, so that whatever we may have stuck here, whatever's stuck in heaven, we're going to release down to earth with a better chance of transforming. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, don't worry. Just breathe out. The big thing about JIN SHIN JYUTSU, which is different to a lot of modalities, is the emphasis is on the exhale. Let it go. When we hold on, we often suppress the energy that wants to expand, and it reverses. And then we feel stuck. So practice trusting that when you let go, you have all what you need anyway. You were just clearing the tram lines to have even more. I think there's a saying about, for those that have more, even more will be given, but the idea is you have to allow that to happen. You don't just kind of, I deserve this. I'm sure you do at one level. We have to do something. We have to act. So let's begin. So let's sit up straight and place your feet firmly on the ground. Just if you've got anything that's going to disturb you, distract you, stun it if it's a cell phone. If your dog is in there, maybe just ask it to. And cats normally don't bother me too much, but just be as relaxed and as least distracted as possible. And we'll begin with the descending idea. And we're going to place our hands in safety energy lock 15, which is in the hip line, in the groin. Just place your hands there. This is all about joy and laughter. So when we travel down the front, we're looking to bring joy and laughter to our earth. So, and we're going to do 6 exhalation inhalations down the front to 15. And 6 in JIN SHIN JYUTSU means balance. And then we're going to do 6 inhalations up the back with safety energy lock 2, which is on the sacroiliac joint on the hip line at the back. So we're working a little differently. So let's begin. And as we exhale, the energy is coming in at the 4, and also around about the umbilicus. So it's going to go down 4, 15, and then to the 7, which is the big toe, victory, perfect life, power, and it's going to move up the back. 7, 2, back to the 4. Here we go. Close your eyes if it's comfortable. Dim the lights if you wish. Look for comfort and harmony. Exhale. Here we go. And the energy is going to spiral. It's going to spiral in a clockwise direction, head to toe, skin to bone. And then it's also going to spiral up the back in a clockwise direction. Clockwise means harmony, positivity. And when you've done one round, you do 5 more. As the energy spirals down, just observe. There may be places where you feel stuck in the body. It's okay. Just keep exhaling. Notice where you're stuck, and then just move through. Breathe through it. Feel your connection with your feet, which in this case are touching what represents the earth in your environment. And we receive a breath, and the breath is light.
You're muted, Terry.
Thank you. Yes. So, thank you. So when you reach that 6th exhalation, inhalation, just observe how and where you feel. Maybe how you were thinking and feeling at the beginning has begun to transform. Just be aware. And then we're going to do another 6 balancing breaths. But this time, our fingers, thumbs, hands, back of hands are going to go to the top of the iliac crest at the back here, the hip line, to open up Safety Energy Lock 2, Wisdom, Life Force for All Creatures. I think we all like to have a bit more life force, prana, and we all like to have a little bit more wisdom. I mean, I do anyways. So By the way, if any of these movements are tricky for you, take away one hand if that's the problem, or hold a finger helper, which in this case would be the ring finger, to open up the same safety energy lock. Otherwise, sit up as straight as you can. Close your eyes. Exhale. Of course, 2 is a ascending safety energy lock. So what we're emphasizing here is the ascending flow direction of the life force, the light force. But still, we always begin with that exhale, to let go of what we don't need in order to have it transformed into what we do need. So your metabolic rate may well be different to mine. If you've finished already, that's great. Just sit in neutral and observe how you feel and where you feel. And that's like we've opened the dam at the hip line, if there is a dam. We're releasing any pressure, any obstacles that need to be released at this time. So then we're going to move up to the waistline, safety energy lock, 14 here, equilibrium, sustenance, paired with safety energy lock 9, which is just underneath the scapula at the back, a little bit below that. Safety energy lock number 9, end of the cycle, beginning of a new. And it's at the waistline, the mind level, the human being level, that oftentimes, if not all the time, most of the obstacles are created. Because once the heart's made a decision, the mind has a choice how it's going to process it. And it's often at that point that all the judgments come in. So here we are holding the 14s. If you want to cross your hands, cross your hands. And then close eyes. Exhale down the front. Inhale up the back. for 6. Mm. And then just observe how you feel. Now, number 9 in the back, it's often a little tricky for people to reach. It's between the 7th and 8th thoracic vertebrae, and it aligns with the crease in the elbow here. So Mary taught that if you can't reach your 9s, some of you might, maybe more comfortable to hold your 19s. So in the elbow joint, thumb side, it's 2 tendons. You can drop your fingers into them. I've got my hands crossed like that because it's clearly easier to hold the 19s that way. And then maybe just rest them underneath the 14s. So you get the 14s at the same time as the 19s. And breathe out. '19 can represent perfect balance, by the way. Okay, so the last station we're going to connect with is at the bus line, from where our thoughts and feelings begin. Safety interlock 13. And you can hold the 13s, which is the nipple area, like you would hold the hug, because your hands are going to cup over your breast and your thumbs can go under the 22s if you like, or you can do that. You can just put your hands on your nipple area, whichever is comfortable. 13, love thy enemies. Fertility. Breathe out and in for 6. And as we are moving to the more subtler spirals of energy, just notice how connected you are to the ground beneath. You might want to check in and wriggle your toes if you think you're floating. Feel that connection. And relax. Your shoulders drop. You want to be in an elevator that goes from your heart to your mind, to your hips, all the way to your feet before it ascends. As you reach the 6th exhalation, inhalation again, just observe how and where you feel. And to capture safety energy lock 10, which is also a bus line, safety energy lock, the outpouring of limitless life power, we're going to shift from the 19 here to the high 19. So it's place your hands on your upper arms. Again, you can see I'm crossed, rather like the King of Siam or whatever. Just sometimes it's helpful to make a firm grip there if there's some tenderness. I think Mary said a vice-like grip. Just connect. And this will open the 10 at the back, which is between the 5th and 6th vertebrae, thoracic vertebrae. Again, if you can reach that, by all means. And then we do 6 more exhalation inhalations to support the ascending spiral. Here we go. And as you draw to the 6th exhalation, inhalation, see how you feel. Maybe your hands want to stay here, or maybe like mine, they want to slip back to the 15s to remind myself that the objective here is to fill my heart with joy and laughter. And that's a deep joy. It's not a kind of facile, flippant kind of joy. At least that's my connection. And just observe how you feel and what you feel. We've done 3 sets of 12, 6 down the front, 6 up the back. 12 is submission of your personal will to the will of the universe. And the will of the universe is to seek harmony, in my understanding, and certainly in JIN SHIN JYUTSU. So how did that feel? Did you observe a change from what you were thinking or feeling at the beginning and now what you feel? Anyone want to raise their hand or unmute themselves and share? Okay, Diana?
I'm a Virgo, so when somebody tells me to relax, that's very stressful. So I wrote in the beginning, stressed but happy to be doing JIN SHIN. And when we went to the 15, and I'm like, yeah, joy with all this stuff going on in the world. But it popped to my head was the Lionel Richie song, Celebrate. Celebrate good times, come on. And I was dancing in my head, and I said that it was almost comical because I don't usually like let go and think about dancing and joy, joy, happy, happy. And that popped up over and over again. So thank you. It worked to start from the bottom up, I think.
Yeah, beautiful. Oh, you're off, Wera. Okay, yeah, peaceful weekend to you all. Thank you for coming. Yeah, I mean, you know, someone once said to me, I believe they were a clairvoyant, that I get most of my messages through song. And I think it's true. And that could explain why I spent, you know, some time playing a musical instrument and, you know, being in a band or two. That's how my heart used to connect to the universe. It was through a song. And, you know, sometimes those songs are, woo, celebrate, Lionel Richie. You know, I think I went to some meeting where someone was playing his music, dancing on the floor, and everyone was just really celebrating. And then you can go to another level. Maybe the song is not so happy. Maybe, you know, I think Elton John sang a song, sad song, Say It Better or something like that.
Yeah. Or just like Let It Be last week, I was frazzled and then something came on the TV. Sometimes it's a signal. You're going through YouTube and there's Paul McCartney singing Let It Be.
Yeah.
So, and you're just flipping through the channels or going through YouTube. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I needed to hear that. So, yeah. But that was funny. I've never heard music come through when I'm doing JIN SHIN. Usually I'm concentrating or trying to relax, but that I was having a little party on my 15. So thanks.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. And, you know, I'm not suggesting for one moment that as soon as you have a song that comes into your head that maybe the lyrics are a little sad, that all of a sudden you got to change that. It really is a question of degree. We can receive a message, maybe we're in a sad frame, something's happened which has, you know, disturbed our equanimity. All I would say, it's a question of degree, how long you stay there. And I think what we're witnessing in the world is maybe certain groups of people have stayed in anger and other less harmonious energies. And by the way, I'm not saying that all anger is disharmonious. I mean, you could say sometimes anger gives you energy to move. It's how long you stay with it that can create an energy field of disharmony. So go with whatever you're feeling, be honest, be authentic, and then realize how it's affecting your body and how it's affecting interactions. Yes, that's right, Mickey. I was busy sending that song around Now and Then, the song Now and Then by the Beatles. Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole other beautiful story in my heart. I mean, I think the Beatles came and represented.
Hey Siri, play some pop music.
Can you mute yourself? Whoever that was. They represented a time when folks were looking for greater harmony, all through the 60s after the Second World War. Yes, it did, Mickey. John's voice. Kimberly, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of say what happened for me and ask for any thoughts from anyone. I had originally written fear and grief as the emotions, and throughout each of the movements that we did, I felt like things were releasing and just running around in my body. And when we got done, I didn't feel like things were calmer. I just felt like there was sort of more chaos streaming through.
Mm-hmm.
And I had read a quotation by a person named Wendy Suzuki where she said, restoring emotion regulation requires energy, curiosity, and recognizing that you have a choice. And obviously when we're doing JIN SHIN JYUTSU movements, it's not like we're consciously choosing to have something happen. But I'm just wondering if you could talk a little about, you know, what happens if kind of the journey is continuing of a particular emotion, but it's manifesting differently.
Manifesting differently.
Differently. So like literally like the energy that you get, like Kundalini energy just kind of rushing through your body, or like the tail of a dragon. I felt like for me at least, as we went from, you know, one safety energy lock to another, things were moving, but they were moving more like the dragon's tail. So, you know, when we finished, I wasn't more relaxed. I was almost like more agitated.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's why, although I apologize if I didn't emphasize it enough, when you do this kind of work, end up in that grounded position, placing the hands in the 15 area, connecting with the earth level, and feel that connection. Yeah, I mean, this kind of work can activate other subtler channels in the body. You mentioned the Kundalini, and, you know, that's a very powerful energy, which will surge and clear at the chakra level. And yeah, and that can open up different kinds of feelings and emotions which may not feel good. My suggestion is always to exhale and breathe through those experiences. There is a tendency, and it's not a bad thing, but at one level we get attached to whatever we're feeling, experiencing, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, or it's somewhere in between. And actually, it's like, don't get attached to any of it. Let it all go. Let it be with you. Acknowledge it for what it is, and then let it go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So, Phil, you're asking about the navel. Could you share your understanding? Yeah, I know different schools of thought around the navel. One is like, you know, a couple of finger widths above the belly button, and the other's just below the belly button. Cover both, because there are, in my view, because there are these different interpretations of where the navel is. You know, I mentioned at the beginning, earth is understood in JIN SHIN JYUTSU, certainly in the Koji-ki interpretations, as the umbilicus. That's the belly button itself, isn't it? And yet, when we think about the umbilicus, I have heard some teachers say we're just above the belly button, some said just below. So like I say, I just cover them both. And in your head, your mind, your intention is belly button, umbilicus, navel. And your awareness will take you there. The cosmic intelligence or intuition actually does know where you mean. And that's where, you know, I think the mind sometimes unnecessarily intervenes. If you just said, show me where the navel is, watch where you're guided to place your hand. Maybe experiment with that. I've done it before with things I've like, I don't know, show me. It's like, show me the harmony. Wayne Hackett would always say before a class, you know, when we're, or in a, you know, doing a flow, show me the harmony. When he placed his hands on someone, he was looking for where he had to connect to harmonize the person's energy field. So maybe that's a possible approach. Show me the harmony. Show me the navel. If the great cosmos has all the answers, I think John Lennon said, you know, there's nothing you can say or think or sing that hasn't been said, thought, or sung before. That's called, for those of you that are interested, it's called the Akashic Records space. Apparently it's the library of everything that we've ever thought, said, and done. And apparently there's nothing that you and I can think, say, or do that hasn't already been done in one form or another. So it's like, is this real or is this just an illusion? I don't know anymore. But I just offer these ideas so that you can maybe contemplate your own navel. Does that help, Phil?
Yeah.
Wherever you are? Oh, at work. Oh, so you can't really talk. If it helped, just text. Janet, you did a standing meditation. Oh, okay. Yeah, you know, I don't want anyone to feel limited by sitting down. If it's easier for you to stand, that's a really great way of connecting with the flow of energy down the front and up the back. It actually, for a lot of people, they do walking meditations, standing meditations. It's all very unique to you. And if you get an effect that feels harmonious, that's great. So is there anybody else got any questions or any feelings, any shifts, any changes, something that happened which they felt, wow, that didn't expect that, or just, you know, whatever happened. Sharing helps you kind of harmonize with what's happening to yourself. Maybe there's other people who've had a similar experience. Anyone got anything else? No? Okay. All right, well, next week we've got a mystery guest. And then the week after that is Thanksgiving in America. Actually, it falls on the Thursday, so there won't be a Harmonize to Energize that day. It's the whole Thanksgiving energy. Oh, Carol, you had your hand up?
Do you mean me, Terry?
Yeah.
Okay. I just felt really jiggy, like nervous and everything at the beginning of this session. Like I couldn't calm down. And I just feel much more back in my body, in my belly, and I just feel happier and more calm.
Right. Yeah. So that's a transformation.
Yeah.
And, you know, earlier, Kimberly was talking, you know, about she didn't feel a particular positive result in that sense. But it's all good. And I want to add something else to that. If you didn't feel any different, maybe you need to do the exercise for a little longer. That's all. And sometimes change does take a little longer. Who knows how long that thought has percolated in your heart? So I'll leave you with all those ideas of harmony. The heart, the universe, I believe, is seeking harmony. It wants to bring that message into our soul through our heart. And through the ages, there are times when there's disruption, things get out of harmony. I believe it's our responsibility to find ways to help bring it back, and avoiding the most disruptive ways as we can. And that comes with intention to work from yourself outwardly, not necessarily outwardly to in. Go from in to out. Work out your own human stuff. Find your balance and see what happens to your energy field and what it attracts into your life. So have a peaceful rest of the day, harmonious rest of the day, joyful rest of the day. Those qualities, look for them, and don't judge yourself if you slip into the, oh my God, the world's in the state, oh my God, this is terrible. Don't beat yourself up. Breathe through it. Just let it go. Watch where it goes in your body. Inhale cosmic purified energy to transform that. You're not going to become a Pollyanna. You're actually going to become more discriminating, discerning, and clearer, and ultimately maybe you'll see the biggest picture of all, and you'll go, oh, I see. This is the universe balancing itself through us. Maybe. All right, have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will stop the recording now, and the replay will be up